What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome to Not Your Status Quo. Tonight, we're talking The Last of Us, Season 2, Episode 6, The Price. But before we get into all of that, Dave, how's it going, sir?
Well, Keith, I am fan-freaking-tastic. As you know, if you follow us on Facebook, that I went to Comic-Con this last weekend, met Christina Ricci. That was great. She's awesome. Um,
How much did she
I
have
met
to
a
pay
few,
to get your autograph?
$80.
Nice.
That's what I charged her. Um, there were a lot of awesome people there. I didn't experience any negativity, and it was just like nerding out, which is nice because I feel like I'm a nerd, but I go there and I'm not as nerdy as these people, which is great. I think that's great. So many people dressed up, cosplay. Um, like after I waited in line to meet Christina Ricci, I walked over to where my cousin was, not my cousin, sorry, my nephew, and he was talking to all the cast of X-Men '97, and I was like, you know, and I just told you this before we went on the air. I think that's what I'm going to do when I go on to these Comic Cons now, is talk to those people because one, there's not a big line for them. Two, they're always really nice and have a lot to say. And they're doing the voices. Like the lady who did the voice for Rogue came up behind me. So we were just standing by her table, and she came up behind me and she started talking to me. I didn't even have to go up to her, go in her line and go to her desk. She just started talking to me, and then she just sat down and kept talking. Really nice people, really good time. Had a great time. But this episode of this show, I thought was Last of Us was even worse than the last one. We'll get into that in a minute. How are you doing?
I am tremendous. I'm kind of taken aback by what you just said, and we'll get into that when we talk about it. And for those of you wondering where the third of us, or the last of the three of us, or
The Last of Us are?
whatever you say, Doug is actually on set at Avengers Doomsday doing some quick script rewrites to make sure everything's hunky dory to get a couple, of our theories into the movie so we look extra smart when the movie comes out. You know what I'm saying? But we are here, and stay tuned after because we do have some rumors and some things to talk about after this, which is MCU related. But we are going to talk The Last of Us. Like I said, episode 6 of season 2, The Price. And it starts out with a flashback to a flashback. And we see young Joel and Tommy. Both of them are, well, Tommy's upset. He's worried his dad is going to come home and give him the belt. And then the swordsman strolls in. Wonderful
That's what
actor.
they called him. It was amazing.
Yeah. Tony Dalton comes in, and it was, he's a cop, and he's like, yeah, Joel's trying to tell him, I was trying to buy, marijuana, and the guy was ripping me off, so I started a fight. And he's like, I talked to the people involved, and I talked to the police officers. I know you're lying. And he's like, oh, well, you going to beat me or whatever? Basically waiting for the abuse, the physical abuse that he was thinking was coming. And his dad gets him a beer out, and he, kind of talks to him and says, I was abused much more violently by my dad than I do you guys. And I know it's wrong. I feel, terrible about it. And he hopes that he does better with his own children. It's a very tender moment. I was kind of like, okay, this is definitely setting something up later. We knew we were getting a flashback episode. We didn't know it'd be. And it wasn't the whole thing. We did get like 30 seconds of Ellie returning to the theater in modern day. But it was mostly a flashback.
Yeah, just 99% of the show, which we didn't, we were hoping it wouldn't be. In that sense, I don't know. I didn't want it to be the whole show as well. I felt like, the thought of it would be like an acolyte type of thing. Like, oh, they just really badly timed this. That wasn't my main gripe with the show, so it was okay.
Yeah, they did, some good things. I think they could have interweaved some of this into other episodes from this season to kind of make it flow a little better, but I think overall it wasn't a terrible flashback episode. We did get a lot. So, it starts after the flashback of the flashback. It's basically like 2 months after they arrived in Jackson, and Ellie burns her arm to cover the bite because, she wants to wear short sleeves, which we had known because we had seen that in previous episodes. So I was kind of watching that like, okay, Tommy was worried about her and bringing her back, and she was on pain meds. Was this scene needed? I don't know. It kind of showed Joel kind of, being his dad like. But I think the rest of the scenes really did a better job of showing what kind of dad he was being to Elle all those years in Jackson. We got, she had her birthday, and he had made a trade with the homophobe from the first episode of this season. Can't remember his name.
Yeah.
Was it Stan?
I don't know either.
No, it doesn't matter. But he was making a trade with him. He found a bunch of Legos out on patrol, and we find out he was trading for a birthday cake and a bone.
Happy birthday, Eli.
Yes, yes. Do you think that was a reference to the Book of Eli?
I don't. No.
Okay.
I think it's just funny.
It was funny. I was like, I wonder if they did Eli because it's near Ellie and the Book of Eli, but probably not. But he gives her a guitar too, and obviously she hasn't learned how to play, and she asks him to sing a song and play, and he does Future Days, which was very nice. Yeah, buddy?
The battery's dead.
Okay, you want to do me a favor and hold down the fort for 1 sec, Dave? I will be right back.
Wait, are you able to... Wait, is there anything... Wait, are you able to make...
So, everybody, how you feeling? Yeah. Actually, I thought what Keith just said there led into a scene that I want to get his thoughts on when he comes back. But they went for the guitar, the dude playing the guitar evoking emotion again. And, once is okay, which I thought was cringeworthy the first time. The first time. And then this time was even worse for me. It was like a stomach turner. I mean, he might be able to sing and play guitar, but, what is this show, man? It's not a singing show. It's not a drama. It was supposed to be a show about fighting zombies and mushroom zombies. And this season we're seeing a bunch, I don't know, it's not qualifying as character development for me. It's qualifying as boredom. I'm bored out of my mind on this show. And the acting is terrible. And here's Keith back. We'll see how he feels about all this.
Okay, I'm back. What?
Cool. I was just mentioning how where you left off led into a scene where Pedro was playing guitar, and they had another moment there, but then that's what got to me. All right, they went to the well too many times. This is not, what kind of show are we watching here, where they gotta try and evoke emotion from somebody playing guitar and somebody else looking at him with those starry eyes, and I'm just like, oh my God, you did this once, and it kind of worked, but I didn't like it personally. But then they do it again, and I'm sorry, Pedro, but Pedro, I didn't think he had a very good voice. But,
he didn't have a good voice. I will not argue with you on that. But I still thought it was a nice, heartfelt moment, him kind of becoming a dad and, trying to do the right thing by her. And, we each have our own, thoughts on the whole thing. I get your thought, man.
Yeah, I keep thinking, like, are we watching This Is Us, or are we watching a zombie show? Where we're watching, I know there's character development going on, but I think that it's not the right kind of character development. It's just like, all right, why are we spending so much time on this other crap when we could be developing? When's the last time you saw like a clicker? I thought the show was about zombies and dealing with zombies, and it's just been, it's just been like a regular drama.
It's just set in a mushroom zombie apocalypse. But, and I'll kind of talk about, I kind of liked all of the stuff we saw in this episode. I think it could have been condensed a little bit to really get to their point. Because next we have, for her 16th birthday, Joel takes Ellie to an abandoned museum. There's a dinosaur statue she ends up climbing up. And then she's, they're walking through the museum that's right there. And she ends up sitting in the Apollo 15 module. And Joel, the icing on the cake for this one is he gets a cassette recording of the Apollo 11 liftoff, and she imagines herself during this, and she's like this, the lights going by, and she's just fully into this moment. And once again, I thought it was a sweet father-daughter moment. Kind of shows them bonding over the years, and just the kind of person that Joel is with her. Little things that he knows she likes, and trying to make, even though they're stuck in this mushroom zombie apocalypse, trying to make the most of it and trying to make her day, pleasant.
Yeah, and that scene it, like fell flat to me too as well, because I don't have a problem at all with Pedro's acting, but her acting is not hitting home with me. Every time I feel like she's either overdoing it or underdoing it in every scene. I wish she was better, that I was more entertained by her. I'm not saying I'm the ultimate judge of actors. It's just not hitting home with me.
No, and that's
all I'm saying.
No, exactly. And there's times, trust me, there's times I think she's a little too stone-faced. It's like, man, did she get a Botox injection or something today? What's going on? She's just like, okay, and I'm like, ooh. But then there's other times I'm like, okay, she's doing a pretty good job. But I think it's always difficult acting opposite Pedro, because
Someone's
he
so
is
much
very
better.
good. Here's a hot take
Yeah.
for all of you out there. Pedro Pascal is an excellent actor.
Whoa,
I know.
are you serious?
People are gonna, jump all over that one. How can you believe that? But then we see on her 17th birthday, he kind of stumbles in to her room, and she had been smoking some pot. She was getting intimate with Kat, and she had put a tattoo of a moth on Elle's arm where she got the burn, and obviously where the initial infected bite was. Once again, it kind of showed us her growing up and me having a almost 17-year-old in my house. I really understood this scene. I was like, oh yeah, he's having a tough time understanding what's going on. Why is she with a girl right there? I don't think he figured out. They kind of hinted the year before when he's like, oh, is something going on with you and Jason or whatever? And she's like, you don't understand at all. And he's like, oh, okay. But, he's kind of upset, and he's trying to learn and kind of understand this. And he just doesn't at this point. He's really having a difficult time understanding this rebellion, her rebellious nature and what's going on. And he thinks it's just that. Like, he wonders if this is just her rebelling and not her true self. And once again, Pedro was great in it. Ellie ends up, she's trying to move into the garage in the middle of the night during a rainstorm, which I was like, at first I was like, what kind of, oh wait, she's a teenager. So yes, of course she's doing something like trying to move her mattress in the middle of a rainstorm to a garage. But, they kind of argue a little bit, and Joel's like, listen, just give me a couple days and I'll get it fine. You can move out there, but give me a couple days and I'll get it out there. And there was a scene, he's like under my roof, and she was kind of like, they gave you this house. This isn't really your house and stuff. And, just trying to really hurt him with her words. And I was like, damn, here we go. This is going to be, the part, where they had that really big sort of distance between them that we see at the beginning of this season.
Yeah, for all he did to obtain shelter for them, safe shelter, and then she just says something like that. Yeah, it's a teenage thing, but it, in that, especially in a post-apocalyptic world, that's going to sting a lot more.
100%. And all that he's done for her. I mean, he's went out of his way to barter and get things to make that one day special for her because it's her birthday. And obviously he knew prior to the apocalypse, what it was like. And he's trying to make it a special for her, man. It was like tough to watch her treat him like that, but you can feel the distance growing between the two. And then, we did have the one scene where this was during the museum when they were walking out, and she looks over and sees all the fireflies, and she's like, and I was like,
Yeah.
felt a little forced. I was kind of like, okay, we get it. We know she's sort of doubting this and stuff, and she even has, her questions that she wants to ask him because she doubts it, because she can't understand why they saw them coming a mile away, but couldn't see, a group of raiders and all that stuff. So, and then another birthday, they were going birthday by birthday, which I thought was a choice.
That was a better way to do a flashback, I guess, because there's always, I don't want a Nexus event every year that they refer to.
And for her birthday, he lets her join the patrol. And they're out and they're on the easiest path or whatever, and she's obviously, wanting to do more, and they get a call. And there's infected, and he wants her to head back, and she's like, no, I'm coming with you. And he's like, fine. And that's where we find out how Eugene goes. And he wants to go back and see Gail. He's able to count to 10 without his hand shaking. So Ellie thinks
he's okay.
He's okay.
Not infected.
Yeah.
Or he's got time.
Exactly. He's got the time to get back and do it. So Joel says, you go get the horses. I'll start walking with them. I promise you we'll do this. And he ends up taking them to a nice little Cena Vista and is talking to him and, basically saying, hey, Gail, you can see Gail and everything and all this stuff. And he ends up putting him down, which Ellie walks in on right as it's done.
I was actually, as much ire as she has drawn from me this season, I was on her side on that. You don't promise something and then just immediately know you're not going to do what you promised. There's something really wrong with that.
No, you're right. And I thought it was a very nice way, because at first I was like, okay, we're getting the Eugene thing. Why are we continually getting these flashbacks that could have been better off, earlier? But then we find out is because, they go back and he's telling Gail, oh, he did it himself. He was really brave and stuff. And she's like, you're lying, Joel. And she uses the phrase, I thought this was very telling, because he's like, I promise you I won't do it or whatever. But at the end of season 1, or near the end of season 1, she goes, you swear that's what happened. He goes, I swear. And at that scene, she said, you swore. Obviously thinking back to that day. And we do find out that she's like, that same look in your eyes when you swore that the Raiders killed the Fireflies and everything is the exact same look there. So he basically gave himself away. And then we kind of come back to the beginning of the season. We see the New Year's Eve party. But when Ellie comes home and Joel is on the porch playing the guitar, she doesn't walk past. She comes onto the porch and they're talking. And she basically says, you have one chance to tell me the truth. What happened? Did you kill those fireflies? And he said, yes, I did it to save your life. And were there any other, people that were immune to the bites?
Right.
And he's like, no, there wasn't. And she's very upset. She's like, you took away my life's purpose. And she's very upset. She's very upset. But then she says something. It's funny because after Joel kind of admits he has no regrets, he would do it again in the same circumstances, and tells her how much he loves her and tells her that he hopes she will do better with her own children, mimicking what his dad told him way back in 1983. I can't believe 1983. How old are these people?
Yeah.
But she says, I don't think I can forgive you, but I'm willing to try. And I really thought this scene was very well done. Pedro Pascal, just the emotion on his face when he's talking about it, and you can see was just top-notch acting. And I really liked how
what? And he did like the Mandalorian, but he didn't have a mask on. He didn't have to speak to convey that emotion. You could just see it in his eyes when he wasn't speaking. And that's why he's such a good actor.
When he knows he's got to tell her the truth. Before he even speaks, just the heartbreak on his face and knowing that he has to do it. Yeah. I was like, damn, this guy is so phenomenal. And even Bella Ramsey did a good job in this scene. She still was acting next to Pedro is not easy. And I thought she did pretty well, and I just really enjoyed that scene. I was like, that's a nice way to take something that we thought we knew what happened and change it up, and we get a whole new perspective on it. You know, when he left the next morning to go on that patrol without her, he was probably feeling pretty good about himself. Like, okay, we just got to work at this. I'm going to give her some space now. I'm not going to crowd her. And obviously she wanted to go on patrol with him, or would have went on patrol with him, and then couldn't. And then all that, you know, happened with him, you know, getting killed by Abby and everything. But it really put that in perspective. Now, I still think we could have had a little less of all of the flashbacks in this episode and kind of spaced them out as needed and kind of built that up. And then obviously got the Eugene and the porch scene here, well, intermingled with other stuff. But I really thought that final scene was great. I was like, oh man, wow. You know, as a dad, as a parent, man, you're just crushed. But you understand exactly why he did it. You understand why he lied to her and how terrible he feels about all of it. It probably haunted him every day. So he's probably feeling a little relief that it's finally out there and hoping, you know, she can find a way to forgive him. And then, unfortunately, we know what happens in episode 2 of this season. And then we get back to 2029, and after killing Nora at the hospital, we see Ellie returning to the theater, where we assume Dina and Jason are.
Now, my problem with it is an overall kind of thing, and it has to do with the writing. It's like what we discussed. It's like when there's flashbacks in modern TV shows and movies, flashbacks are everywhere, and you got to do them right, and you can't just condense them all into one episode. Like you said, as they went along, they could have done these flashbacks like earlier in the season to show like in that moment instead of saving it for like, oh yeah, that's what happened like 2 episodes ago, and that's why they did that.
They could have opened They could have opened each episode with a flashback of one of her birthdays, and her kind of reminiscing about it as they're heading to Seattle or stuck in Seattle. In my opinion, would have been a much better way to handle it.
Yeah, you drop it down into relevant situations where, oh, that makes sense. I'm glad I just saw that. Not this happened 2 episodes ago, and oh, now I get it. I like it the other way. And another thing about this episode is the overall writing on the show is that the only way it seems like the writer knows how to express anger is to have I was going to call her Bella. That's her real name.
Ellie.
Okay, why isn't it coming?
Ellie.
Ellie. God, thank you. Is to have her swear. If she's not swearing, I don't get it. It's all right. I understand you're upset, but all right, no, you're really upset because you use the F word. I mean, it seems like childish to me. I don't know. That's the way it's coming across. It's because I didn't hear Pedro swear at all. But just when you know Ellie's upset, she's just gonna start swearing and saying, you know, silly things that she'll regret later. But it just seems like, I don't know. We just got done watching Andor, and they done everything so good, and to go back to this kind of writing, it's just like, all right, this guy, I don't know how many other things he's done writing wise, but he might get better later. He might be just starting out in his career, but that's one thing I have a problem with. Just like you can convey anger without having to just only use swearing to be the difference.
You know, she's a teenager, and I'd have to go back and watch. I don't remember her swearing every time she's angry, but some teenagers do, when they get angry, yell and swear quite a bit. So that hasn't bothered me. But I also do think, you know, to your point, trying to compare this to Andor is not even close. I mean, Andor was like so perfectly mapped out, and everything was in its place, and it was like every scene was just epically written and just tremendously acted. You know, this isn't that. And I do wish, I thought after last week's episode, when she tells Nora, I know, it would have been perfect to open up this scene with the flashback of them her on her first patrol, with Eugene, and then having the porch scene, and then lead into it. That way we get a little flashback each episode. It's not, as much as I enjoyed seeing Pedro this whole episode, I don't think having an entire flashback episode, especially this late in the season, is the right way to go, because it kind of slowed all the it was the same thing that we said with the Acolyte. They had this momentum going, and they lost it all because they had an entire flashback episode. And you just have to learn to space those in when it's appropriate. Even, for being a CW show back in the day, Arrow did a great job of flashing back to his time on the island to present day and learning lessons and matching it up. And it seems like the new way to handle it is just throw them all out in one episode and, pick your points where, oh, I see now why that happened, and I see why that happened. Oh, look at, they were getting along so well, then all of a sudden they weren't. And just, I'm not going to compare this to Andor because there's no comparison. The writing isn't as solid as it is in Andor, but I'm still enjoying the show. And I enjoyed this episode. This was an episode, unlike some of the last couple, where I wasn't looking at my phone, and I was like, okay, probably mostly because of Pedro. I mean, I think he's just a brilliant actor, and it was nice seeing him. But there was still some groan moments. I did not like when all of a sudden she's walking, she's like, oh, there's fireflies over there. Oh, my God. I was like, oh, dear, that was ham-fisted a little bit. And just the fact...
That's what I mean about the amateur writing. Not amateur, but he could be developing his skill. The writer could still be developing his skill, and this is just early work. Hopefully he does get better at that in the future. But that kind of writing, to me, it's just like amateurish, because we were blessed with something like Andor. We were blessed with like shows that had the complete idea before they finished the show. And I still don't feel like this show has that complete idea. It still seems like a lot of and then in storytelling to me.
We do get a lot of times when I'm like, okay, is the writing isn't as streamlined as you would think it'd be, because this is all, video games. The whole entire story is already there. And instead of what we've seen other parts where they do an adaptation and they improve on things, Invincible is one of the things. They've made changes to Invincible for the better. And for this, they seem to at times be changing it up just to change it up. It doesn't seem to make it better in any way, and it seems to slow the pacing down a lot. And like I said, I like this episode, but I think having this the second to last episode of a season was not a great idea.
The show, I think you just mentioned it, the show that did it so well was Arrow with their flashbacks, because it was basically like two shows within one show. They would show you what's happening now and flashback to why he's acting like that. Beautifully done. First couple seasons anyway, and then it kind of fell off the rails.
But
at least they didn't at least they didn't jam it all into one episode where you had to go back and mentally think, oh, why is he, what does this relate to? They did it immediately so you could see, oh, that's why. That's what this show, back to the editing room, should have done.
Yeah. They were so good in the first season of those little cutscenes at the beginning explaining about the infected and how it could happen. If they would have had those flashbacks as opening scenes to other episodes in this season, I think that would have been much more impactful than what we got here. And I don't know if it's a current trend, but if it is, please stop doing entire episodes of flashback. They don't need it. Like this, all of the stuff we learned in this episode, we got some good character development, but it could have been probably 15, 20 minutes instead of almost 50. I thought they could have handled it a lot better. We didn't need every little detail we got to understand that Joel was becoming a better parent and trying to learn until they hit that roadblock. So, still a good episode. I'm looking forward to next week. I hope we get some good action, some infected, all the stuff, because there's a lot of interesting things that's going on because, Dave, you made a solid point about, I won't say amateur writing because, But I think a
Lack of a
more
better word.
seasoned writer
Yeah,
would be
there you
doing
go.
a better job of interweaving all these plots. You know, we have the scars, we have, you know, the wolves out there, we have her trying to get her revenge against Abby. There's a lot going on there that they could handle and juggle these things and make it very interesting. And they're kind of, I don't know, not just weaving them in and out of each other. It's like, okay, here's a storyline. Boom. Here's another storyline. Then we'll handle that. Then we'll handle here. And it's not all weaving back and forth to make the big picture a lot more accessible. So, you
Right.
know,
Like Game of Thrones did that really well because they had such a big cast and none of them really mingled until it was important for them to mingle. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And it made sense, and then they were going to, bring it all together at the end, and that's what made that's how you extend the seasons out. I mean, obviously they could have done 4 more seasons of Game of Thrones just to get it right instead of ending it the way they did, but all the stories that you take your time and you make all the stories eventually come together and then it all makes sense.
yeah,
It seems like they're only focusing on Ellie, and if something pops up, say like for instance like last week where they saved her at the last second, they didn't even show. They could have showed steps along the way where they were following. They could have hinted at something like that, but it just happened.
yeah, they
That's
wanted the
that's
surprise of him stepping in. That was his Bruce Willis moment, as
yeah.
opposed to laying down those, breadcrumbs so we figure out, oh, Tommy and him are following. So,
And
something's
it would
going
have
to
been
happen.
a more impactful moment too
Yeah.
when they saved her. Like, oh yeah, I forgot about it, but yeah, they're there. They're on their way. We knew it. I totally forgot about them. That would have been awesome. Instead, it was like out of nowhere.
Yeah, he just shows up, shotgun a blast, and could have been done much better. But,
Don't know.
we regress. Should we rate this episode, Dave?
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts for what's next?
I don't. I've just expressed, why I think it's going bad, and I'm with all the and then storytelling, and I having not played the game, still I don't know where it's going, but I don't feel confident like it's going in a direction that's not going to seem contrived at the end of it. I hope maybe here's a little hope, holding out a hope that how season 2 and 3 are basically the second game cut in half. Maybe it'll all make sense. Probably not. Maybe it'll all seem a lot better after they get all 14 episodes out. I kind of doubt it, just because of the like what was the word you said? Less seasoned writing. I kind of don't think that they'll be able to stick the landing or pull it back together. Like I said, if they could expand the focus a little more, not make it only about Ellie, because maybe you can do that in a video game, but you can't do it on a show like this. You need to show more angles to see why everything is happening. Like, why haven't we seen on a TV show? What's the other girl's name?
Dina?
No, the other one.
Abby?
Who killed Abby?
Yeah.
Why haven't we seen Abby since the beginning? We could see what she's been doing, whether they want it just to be a surprise when she finally gets to her. It's not gonna be. We all know where this is leading. She's gonna kill the crew as she gets to them, and then kill Abby at the end of it. We all know that's coming, but the way they're handling it is like just to not to show Abby at all until we get to that. I don't like that. We should develop Abby as well and that team. Maybe we'll even feel like, ooh, she killed that guy and he was kind of cool. Maybe we get to that point.
No, you're right. I think that would have been, once again, back to the editing room a little bit, a better way to handle this, instead of not seeing anything with Nora until Ellie confronts her, learn something more about her. See them traveling back to Seattle, see things that they're doing, grow them as a character and let us see it. Whatever's going on with all these characters, they could do something, but I think they're trying so hard to be faithful to the video game and be like, oh, this is all from Elle's perspective. We got to continue that. And I don't think it's really the right way to handle it. I think you're right. Showing what Abby and her crew are doing, get to know them, maybe, get to like them a little bit and understand, she was obviously, with her dad being killed by Joel, it was a traumatic experience and she was overwhelmed with the thoughts of revenge. Build on that a little bit, show us. And, for next week, as she was walking up to the theater to return, I'm like, they could have some really good dialogue and some really good plot points with the love triangle that's going to probably go on between Dina, who's carrying, is his name Jason? I keep calling him Jason. Jesse, thank you. She's carrying Jesse's baby, and obviously she said she wants to be with, Ellie. So they could have some good sort of triangle stuff going on, jealousy, them pulling it together and helping each other at the last minute, but still having tension between it all. But I don't know if I trust these writers to handle that. But it's right there for them to do. And maybe Tommy, we know Tommy's supposedly came with Jesse. So maybe he's the mediator who helps, bring it all together and keep them focused on the mission and what needs to do. But we know there's another season. They're not going to kill Abby tomorrow. She's not getting her revenge. I wouldn't assume this quick. Like you said, she's probably going to go find the crew one at a time and take them out until she finds out someone will break and say, oh, Abby's here, or she does this, so she's here. And then she'll go off to kill Abby next season. But, yeah, so many ways they could have improved this season. And it doesn't help when you lose.
So that's our what's next.
Yeah.
That's our collective what's next.
Yes.
Is that, just think about, I don't know if they've written season 3, but maybe, think about it a little more in depth, add a little more flavor to it, rather than just, like you said, following the video game. Because when you adapt a movie from a video game, some of them video game writers are really good. Some of those stories are really good. But when you adapt it to the screen, you got to understand there's differences. And I don't think we're getting that here, So
they're struggling.
I guess I'm going to use all that as my synopsis to give it my rating. And I'm going to give it the same rating I've given the last 3 episodes. And that's a 2.5 for me. I'm still not really impressed.
See, for this episode, I think one of its stronger points was Pedro. He was definitely so good in this. It was good to see him back. I think the show isn't as good without him in it because he really carries it. And I think he's like a great basketball player. He brings up everyone around him. And you kind of saw this here. I loved some of the scenes he had, but I still think the way they handled it and did every flashback in this episode hurt it overall. Because if they would have been spread out and intermingled with another episode, it would have been much better. And this series would have kept the momentum it was building up in season 2. I mean, we know Ellie killed Nora last episode, and then nothing for this. Just all character building. But I do think that final scene on the porch, that they sort of circumvented our expectations, thinking she just walked past and went to her thing. And we do find out that there was a really, heartfelt moment between the two. And she, was brutally honest at the end. I don't think I can forgive you, but I'm willing to try, which was a very big growth moment for Ellie, I thought. And both of the actors in that scene, I thought, did a really good job. But overall, I still think this episode wasn't as good as it could have been. And I'm going to give it a 6.25. Some strong acting, but the writing could have been better. And I want to see the story advanced in the present time and not be bogged down with an entire flashback episode. So if anyone's out there writing a season of any show, have the flashbacks spread out if you need to use them at opportune times. Don't just give us an entire episode of flashbacks. It doesn't work like you think it's going to work.
Can you imagine? I think I remember the first time I saw flashbacks used like that was maybe The Dark Knight. No, not The Dark Knight, but the first one, Batman Begins.
Batman Begins.
When he's learning and he fell into the well, and his dad comes down and gets him, and that's a flashback. I was like, that's genius. They're explaining to me, why he's doing what he's doing right now. And it's like, all right, everyone's tried to use their own angle on the flashback since then. But I think that's the most effective. Use the flashback where it makes sense.
Yeah. Don't get bogged down with flashbacks because if you overuse it, it's only going to hurt your overall narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and looks like we got I can't even read. Bergion Gables, cheap viewers on steamboospace.com. Remove the space, guys. I would just like to let you know we don't want cheap viewers. We only want the top of the line, awesome viewers. We don't just allow anyone to watch us. Only fellow nerds of the highest moral, standards.
Like everyone watching right now.
That's right. You know who you are. All right. So we're done with The Last of Us for this week. We got one episode left. I hope it does a nice job. We do have another season. It's already been renewed. But are you ready for some rumors, sir?
Yes. Fire away.
So, supposedly, at this year's SDCC, that's San Diego Comic-Con, for you fine people out for the non-fellow nerds out there, Marvel is going to announce the rest of Phase 6.
Whoa.
I know, shocking.
The rest of Phase 6. Wow.
Especially since it's starting in 2 months. But what's interesting about it, what I liked, they're going to announce the new Doctor Strange movie, which is going to be set in Battle World, which for those of you playing the home game is what Secret Wars is all about. They bring all of these realities together and they call it Battle World. Because in the comics, the Beyonder wanted everyone to fight, and whoever won, he would grant them their greatest wish. So it sounds like Doctor Strange 3 and Thor 5 are going to be set in Battle World. Possibly also Spider-Man 4 or Spider-Man Brand New Day.
Brand New Day.
And they're making a third Avengers movie as part of Phase 6.
Do they have a name?
They don't yet. They said it will not be part 2 of anything. And what I was thinking it could be, because we got Doomsday, we got Secret Wars, and one of the big sort of Kang, and I know Kang is not part of this anymore, but one of the big Kang storylines was Avengers Forever, where Avengers from all these different eras kind of teamed up to help take down Kang and Immortus. I think we could get Avengers Forever. And that could be the third Avengers movie in this phase, kind of bringing everyone together to stop Doom and everything else. But obviously that's all a rumor right now, but I hope it's true because I think there's too much story to tell between Doomsday and Secret Wars to have it in only 2 movies.
And that's interesting to me how you said Doctor Strange and Thor will be taking place on Battleworld. Because that could be like a sequel without it being a sequel. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They have like half of the story in one character's universe and half in the other. That's kind of cool. That's never been done, I don't think. That's a very interesting idea.
It'd be interesting to see, yes. And I'm assuming we'll see Clea in the Doctor Strange sequel. Hopefully we get like Beta Ray Bill or something else in the Thor sequel. And obviously the Spider-Man movie, make it grounded with Kingpin and Daredevil. Wait, who said that? Oh, yes. I don't know.
Everybody said that.
So true. And then, one of the other things, this is from Daniel RPK, is that Marvel, this may not be Phase 6. He didn't specify if this was Phase 6 or down the line, maybe. But we are getting an Annihilation project, which anyone who is familiar with Annihilation, Annihilus from the Negative Zone, kind of builds up these armies, and he is basically trying to take out the entire positive universe. And Nova, Silver Surfer, Guardians of the Galaxy, it's a very cosmic event, and they all try to stop him, and obviously the Fantastic Four are involved and all that stuff. So they're talking about an Annihilation movie with Nova and Silver Surfer, but he doesn't know if it's going to be Shella Ball or Norrin Rad. But I hope that's true, because one, I love Nova. I love the Annihilation entire storyline. They've done multiple Annihilations since then, or at least 2. I know they did. The first one was with Annihilus leading his armies, and then there was one with Ultron leading his armies against all these things. But they had a bunch of spin-off comics, so they could really do the same thing they're kind of doing with Doomsday and Secret Wars if the rumor is true, where they have these movies between them set on Battle World, and adding a bit more to these Avengers movies, adding a bit more context to everything. They could have Annihilation movies, and then have a Nova solo movie, Guardians of the Galaxy movie, all kind of tying in and building it out. So hope that's true. Yeah. I'll be excited to hear it. Obviously, we have to wait a few months for San Diego Comic-Con, but we'll keep our eyes peeled and let everybody know when we find out.
I did see a rumor myself that
nice.
Robert Downey Jr. will be playing 4 different characters in Doomsday. Now, obviously, it's a rumor.
What 4 characters did they say?
No, they did not say. And that's the thing that bothers me about it, because what's he going to play? Tony Stark and Victor Von Doom, but I was hoping he wouldn't be Victor Von Doom. He would be a different Doom, because I would want the Victor Von Doom character not to be played by 2 different actors right out the gate. You know what I mean?
No,
I would rather have him.
It would have been better if Mads Mikkelsen or somebody got the part, but they're going for the nostalgia of the first 3 phases of the MCU to kind of hopefully bring back the box office results.
Hopefully it works.
I just can't imagine 4 characters he'd be. I mean, I get Doctor Doom and Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of who else he'd be playing.
I don't know either. I wish they would have expanded on it. This one, maybe it's somebody just farting something out of their butt. I don't know. But I think it was Comic Book Review, CBR. So.
Well, we'll see if that one's true too. I mean, I'm hoping somebody actually a fan got onto the Doomsday set and took some pictures, and it looks like there's a set for Madripoor. So it looks like we'll see Madripoor in Doomsday. I mean, the big one we talked about last week is the X-Mansion seemingly destroyed, with Sentinel parts kind of strewn about, and supposedly Ian McCullough's Magneto is going to be battling Doctor Doom. And if you believe some of the other rumors, basically Doctor Doom, Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom, his universe was destroyed. And so he's trying to bring back his universe by destroying other universes, or I don't know. We'll have to see if that's how it actually goes. Sometimes I think some of these scoopers just make educated guesses on what they think is going to happen based on things. But, we'll have to see. I'm still fired up. We're starting to get behind-the-scenes pictures from Doomsday and stories from it. So, we still got a year or so till it comes out, but at least they're hopefully get it done early, get all the all the special effects done, all the CGI, hopefully no last minute stuff, no rewrites at the last minute, and force those poor workers to work extended hours and everything else.
Well, my hype level for Doomsday is still right up at 9. I'm still excited no matter what I hear. I can't wait. Those, just knowing the Russo brothers are doing it, and they did the last 2 Avengers movies, and everything they've done in the MCU has been incredible. Mm-hmm. So I can't wait. I think it's just going to get better.
Yeah, you would hope. Ever since they kind of did this creative overhaul with Daredevil Born Again, which turned out to be really good. I can't wait for season 2 of that. Now, unfortunately, Ironheart was before this all, but it seems like Kevin Feige is taking a bigger role in making things he's developed there correctly, and he did such a great job with the first 3 phases. Some things in Phase 4 and Phase 5 were good. Guardians, WandaVision, things like that. So hopefully, I'm still fired up for it, because I've wanted to see Doctor Doom, and a good Doctor Doom in live action for the longest time. And seeing him battling the Avengers and the X-Men. And if you believe the rumor that we're going to see X-Men versus Avengers in this movie too, it gets me hyped. But I hope they don't overdo it with this stuff and don't have, anything else in the movie. I hope they're able to balance everything together, balance the characters. Because we saw 35 freaking characters in this movie. It's going to be tough to balance all those. But That's
Well,
why,
you know they're gonna cram in the Phoenix Saga. You know they're gonna do.
yeah, instead of the Mutant Saga, it'll be the Phoenix Saga. We're racing through
Right.
it. We've got Simon Canberg on board to have a third shot at this. 3 strikes and he's out, but we're giving him that last shot.
Yep. Then he can go on and do his Star Wars thing, and we know what happens to people who uh, write something before they write a Star Wars thing. Right, Trevorrow? What's his name? Trevorrow?
No, oh my God. I can't even think. I know who you're talking about. But just for people out there, Simon Canberg is not on board to write anything for Marvel right now. We were joking. Thank God.
Yeah.
But the rumor is that the director of Thunderbolts, they're looking at him to direct the first X-Men movie in the MCU. And I enjoyed Thunderbolts, so, hopefully that's the right choice. Once again, if Dave's buddy Kevin Feige is back, handling more of this day by day. Hopefully we get back to, what the level of excellence that we, got in the first 3 phases and everything. That would be great. And we know not everything was perfect in the first 3 phases. Thor: The Dark World, I'm looking at you.
Iron Man 3 wasn't the best.
Yep. There were some misfires, but overall it was well done.
Yeah. Did you see Supergirl is wrapped filming?
I did. And we are getting
Can't wait for that.
we are getting the rumor that she is showing up in Superman. Some say it's a post-credit scene where she just comes and gets crypto. And that's not cryptocurrency. We're talking about Superdog crypto. I don't want any comments popping up on Twitch. Oh, y'all are into crypto? Let me tell you about it.
Yeah, we created our own. It's called NYSQ crypto.
We should do that. Why have we not done that yet?
I don't know. We could be billionaires.
We could be. We could do like the Hawk-Tua girl and get a bunch of investment money and then bail on it and keep. This is all legit. Please send your money.
I don't think that's going to work out for her. I think she's in some serious legal trouble.
I think you're right. All right. I think that's all we got for tonight. We talked through The Last of Us. We talked through our rumors. Hopefully we'll have some more rumors coming up. It's funny, I actually forgot about San Diego Comic-Con. Like if the rumor is true that they're going to announce it all there, I was like, we might not be getting anything. Like San Diego Comic-Con may just turn into just a normal Comic-Con, which is still fantastic. But I figured DC would start doing their own events, and obviously Marvel has D23. Mm-hmm. So it'd be cool. I loved when we got all those announcements in the same weekend. The DC stuff, the Marvel stuff, all the stuff, just huge announcements all coming at once. It led to wonderful streams after that talking about all this stuff. And they've kind of gotten away from that. Yeah. I know Marvel's not announcing as much into the future as they used to because some things didn't pan out.
Star Wars too.
Yeah. Definitely Star Wars too. And even DCU, James Gunn has said, we're not really going to announce anything until we got a script and everything else. So we're not going to get, they have supposedly a 10-year plan. And I'll take him on his words. If he says he has a 10-year plan, I'm sure he does. But we're not going to hear it all until scripts are done and other things fall into place. But he did say he was writing his next motion picture right now.
I didn't say what it was?
He did not say what it was. A lot of people are thinking it's Batman Brave and the Bold or something along those lines, but he likes to put that out there and keep everybody guessing. I think he likes to say that stuff, and everyone's like, oh my God, what is he writing? Is it going to be this? Oh my God, what's going on?
Well, I saw that he gave Matt Reeves, he said by next weekend they should have a full script for the next Batman, which is like, it seems like it's been stressful for not just James Gunn, but for Matt Reeves too. He really wants to get this story right, and if he doesn't get it right, he's open to just moving on if he doesn't get it the way he wants it, which is great. That's good integrity right there.
More people should be that way. If we've seen it happen, especially in the MCU, trying to hit these timelines where we'll rewrite as we go. We'll do this and we'll do that. Right. And it never works out that way. You really should have, there's always going to be changes, and I get it. But saying we'll just figure it out as we go is probably not the best way to go when you're making a big budget movie. Because you have to have things planned out.
When I see that, like they're going in and they're going to start filming, but they haven't finished the script yet, that drives me nuts. I'm like, how can you even start? What if you're missing something that you need to put right here? You're in the location that needs to be filmed. I know that's what, callbacks or, reshoots are for, but why wouldn't you want to go into it already? You know what I mean? Yeah. James Gunn's doing it right that way.
Yeah, he has everything completely scripted out, and he has all of his storyboards done. And he does everything before he shoots. And sure, there's going to be some reshoots. You may see it later and go, you know what? I had a good idea, because everybody happens. You write something, and then a week later, you're like, oh, it would have been better if I did this. Well, we'll catch in the reshoots or something. So,
yeah,
it's all good. But we should probably find somebody to raid. And before we do go tonight, we will be back. I can't stream Thursday because it's my son's carnival at his school, so maybe Friday. We can talk about that amongst ourselves, so we'll let everybody know. But someday this week, we're going to do a retro review of Rogue One, which I don't know if you... I don't know if you've watched it.
I haven't, but I've been dying to. And they said at Disney, it's gone way up. I mean, that's the #1 movie on Disney Plus right now.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Which is awesome because it's so good. And rewatching it, just so many little things that I think were enhanced because of Andor. So good. I may watch it again before we talk about it because I really do love that movie. Everything about it it's the best Disney Star Wars film by a long shot.
It is. It's definitely in my top 4 Star Wars movies of all time. I do like the original trilogy.
Yeah, the original trilogy is great. I'm going to watch A New Hope, too, because obviously Rogue One leads right into A New Hope, so I have to watch that, too. Oh, darn it.
Yeah.
Oh,
darn it. That's so crappy. I don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah, I know. It's going to... the stuff we do for this channel.
I know. It's going to break your heart.
So we do have Bubble is online playing Oblivion. TG, Lies of P. Tiny Valkyr playing Marvel Rivals.
It could be early enough for TG.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know what time he started tonight, but he's got...
And this is earlier than we normally stop, so...
I think I spelled that right. So everybody, we're going to raid TG, a friend of ours. And what rating is, for those of you watching on YouTube, it's something we do on Twitch where we can send our viewers to another content creator that we like. There is a way to do it on YouTube, but it's clunky and weird, and we just don't do it because you got to know who's live when you're done. And we don't always know that. It's not like Twitch. Not everyone is live on YouTube all the time. Some people just post videos. So we're going to raid him, but we will be back later this week with our retro Rogue One review. That's a little harder to say than I anticipated. But,
a lot of R's in there.
Yes, it's way too many R's. But thanks for being out here. If you're watching on YouTube and you're still here, please, throw us a subscribe, like the video, make a comment. It's free to you, and it helps our small channel out tremendously. But we will be back soon. Peace out, everybody.
Hey, fellow nerds. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of this stuff, make sure that you check out our Twitch stream. We try to do these live Sunday or Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Keep an eye on our social media to find out when you can join in live and chat with us during these live streams. Also, as usual, don't forget to check out our other social media. Add us at Twitter, comment down below, and we'll see you next time right here on Not Your Status Quo.